Well, it is a day many of us in Charlotte will never forget. Tomorrow marks 1 year since the deadly apartment fire in SouthPark, and those images and the videos from that day are still shocking to see.
Yeah, it's been 12 months. It's hard to believe after this tragedy. The Charlotte Fire Department has yet to finish its internal review of the day's events. However, it has made some changes to better protect the public and firefighters themselves in the future. The 5-alarm fire claimed the lives of DeMonte Sherrill and Reuben Holmes. The two construction workers were trapped by the flames that day, unable to escape them.
Their families recently filed a $50 million wrongful death lawsuit against the companies involved with the construction project, claiming the companies failed to meet safety standards, costing their loved ones their lives. In the meantime, WCNC Charlotte's Nate Morabito has learned the fire department and federal government are still studying this historic fire in hopes of learning critical lessons.
Yeah, Nate Morabito is seeking solutions for us tonight.
Remember, Charlotte fire marshals told us they never inspected the construction site, blaming the builder and contractor for a communication failure. An inspection would have likely identified the lack of a required pre-fire safety plan and available water source within the building. Moving forward, thanks to changes at the local and state level, the goal is that kind of failure will never happen again.
We have a fire.
The sound of panic.
Already on scene with a 4-alarm fire.
Sirens and crackling flames today are replaced by the same noise that preceded the deadly fire. Construction. As crews rebuild on Liberty Road Drive, WCNC Charlotte has spent months routinely checking in with the Charlotte Fire Department about the status of its SouthPark fire internal review.
Everything we're doing right now, as we look back on that, is to just see how we could get better.
Emails show CFD created a committee last summer, knowing everyone could benefit from closely examining the events of that day and learning from it. After CFD initially denied our on-camera interview request, WCNC Charlotte showed up to headquarters.
Right now, we're waiting on just one last report,
where Deputy Chief Jerry Winkles eventually told us the fire department is getting closer to finishing that internal review.
We're constantly looking for ways to get better.
We also learned CFD is awaiting the results of a federal cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency review focused on dispatch and communication that day.
I'm sure there'll be things that we did really well and things that we can improve on.
While those reviews continue, he says the fire department has already taken steps to improve its inspection process. Budgeting for 12 new positions that will help the fire marshal's office catch up on a backlog he says started during the pandemic, one that overwhelmed the department as businesses temporarily closed, yet contractors continued to build.
And we're also just trying to get out to the construction sites earlier. We're involved in some of the pre-submittal meetings now. Then that kind of gives us the ability to offer input early on.
CFD has also created a new construction team that can better communicate fire safety requirements specific to each site before work begins, provided consistent guidelines to the construction industry, and is urging contractors to have at least 2 certified construction superintendents on site, plus more exits.
We're trying to learn lessons from all of this and implement the best practices so that it doesn't happen again.
The changes build on new fire codes the National Fire Protection Association created in 2022 as construction fires across the country increased, with roughly 12 a day, too many of them deadly.
One of the ways that we can honor those folks is to ensure the chance of that happening in the future is lessened.
The deaths of DeMonte Sherrill and Reuben Holmes are yet another somber reminder. If the codes were in place, there would have been a better chance that these men would have survived.
That is correct.
Isn't that sad?
It is very sad. You know, we do so much work in fire prevention and community risk reduction, but to really affect change, especially in codes, it takes a loss of life.
State Fire Marshal Brian Taylor says in a historic move, the agency updated the construction portion of its codes well ahead of schedule in direct response to this fire. Normally, the state modernizes all of its codes every 6 years.
We're a reactive society, and we basically react after the fact. It's just sad that we lost 2 lives out of that fire.
He knows there could have been even more deaths that day, with other workers and firefighters requiring rescue. Through their attorneys, the families of both construction workers who died here declined an interview.
telling us it's just too difficult this close to the anniversary. Totally understandable, especially when you consider they believe their deaths were preventable. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
Well, Nate has been working on this story for months, continuously checking back in with Charlotte Fire and state leaders.
Tonight at 8 on our streaming app, WCNC Plus, we'll be walking through a year of coverage. WCNC Charlotte anchor Nick Sturdivant sat down with Nate to talk about the behind the scenes of this investigation, the reporting process, the questions that are still unanswered. So once again, that is tonight at 8. You can check that out on your preferred streaming device.